Welcome back to Gold for a New Generation. Today is February 2nd, 2021. This is our 7th episode titled, How is GameStop going to affect gold? Welcome back, Steve. How you doing?
Doing good. Good to see you.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, you as well. So, GameStop, super interesting. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about gold, what's been happening to gold over the past month or so. Overall, it stayed around the $1,800 level, $200 since it last peaked in August 20 at $2,060, and it's just been laying low. What are some of your insights about gold?
Yeah, it's interesting. It has been kind of boring in gold itself for the last while. I mean, if you think back to its peak in August, it was over 2,000, and a few days later it dropped to about 1,860 or so, and that's plus or minus where we've been for many months. So it's been kind of boring. There's been lots more exciting in financial markets, but I think it could get interesting for gold going forward. But yeah, recently, gold mining stocks, they've been up and down, maybe down a little bit, but not that much happening. But I think with all that else is going on in the market, which we'll get into, but I think there's a sign that things could get pretty interesting, maybe not in a good way for gold going forward. But yes, certainly in the last while, gold itself has been pretty boring.
Gotcha. So let's talk about GameStop and the whole story that surrounds it, and see how we can tie it back into gold. So, what's been happening to GameStop? GameStop is a shop that sells games among all game equipment devices, etc. It's a brick and mortar shop around North America, I believe, and it used to trade around $10 per share. And then I think around last week, it started to shoot up, and it continued to shoot up, and it actually reached about above $500 per share, which is incredible. And if you look at it today, it actually came back to 100. So what has happened with GameStop? Why did it reach $500 per share from $10? Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is the hot topic. Everyone, I'm running into all sorts of people that are asking me about GameStop. I'm getting texts from all sorts of people that are, should I buy? Should I sell? Should I invest in Nokia? All these other companies that are kind of jumping up and down. And it's kind of fun to talk about, but I think it has some implications that we'll get into on gold and silver, quite important ones. And but yeah, GameStop was basically, maybe somewhat undervalued company last summer. People weren't sure how it was going to do during the pandemic, after the pandemic. Um, there was some people on Reddit that started to promote it. There was one guy named Roaring Kitty that bought call options on it. He really said, here's the case and so forth. It started to build, the price started going up. And they started to realize there was a lot of players short GameStop, meaning that they would benefit if the price dropped. If GameStop, the price dropped, those short sellers would gain. But then you had the little speculators, and in my university course, I've highlighted my speculators as these, the little uh, teddy bears versus the big dogs, and it's created this situation where on Reddit, social media, they were all like, yeah, let's go after GameStop. Let's buy call options, buy up the shares. And they created such demand in such a short period of time. The people that were short it, well, they started losing lots of money, and they were forced to buy back these stocks, the shares that they had sold. And I mean, it's extraordinary. You just don't see things like this very often. And there was a funny joke on Twitter. Someone had posted, in my 3 days of trading, I've never seen anything like this before. Whereas, in my 30 years, you don't see this too often, and there's very little financial history that these kinds of things happen, but they do from time to time. And it's, I mean, one side of it, it's amazing, right? Like, all these, small investors are teaming up and beating the big guys. And it's very interesting, but it's also speculation at an extreme. You know, everyone knows that GameStop is not worth $400 a share. Everyone knows that, but they're just hoping that someone, if I buy it today, someone will buy it from me at a higher price tomorrow. And $400, is maybe even $50 is so extraordinarily too high of a price for the stock, but it's able to go up multiples of that. So it's just it's just this crazy, crazy situation that's going on. And what we're seeing is these Wall Street Bets, which is this forum on Reddit that's just grown and grown and grown. They're just going after. Now that they've got this power that they feel, they're just picking another stock to go after, another stock to go after, and it's fascinating to watch. But it can also be a warning sign here. But yeah, it's pretty interesting what's happening with GameStop.
Just for investors who might be interested in investing in such things, following the crowd, what would you what would be your 2 cents for them?
Well, I mean, it's so exciting, right? If you're participating in it, and I know people that are like, yeah, I made $300 in GameStop in a day. How much did you make? Right? It's easy to get into, and there was a great picture, Australian Financial Review. They had a 16-year-old kid on his couch with his laptop, and it's like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm making money. The boomers, they don't know what they're doing. um, but it doesn't happen that often, but we've seen this kind of extraordinary speculation in the past, and it usually eventually leads to tears. But it could take months. I mean, people were saying this 6 months ago. This is going to end in tears. And for some of the stocks that were being bid up, it did, but lots of things kept going up, or it kept moving on to other stocks. Um, but this is extreme, right? This is, you know, say like Tesla. There's still people out there that can look at Tesla and say, you know what, I think it's going to grow 50, 60% a year for the next 15 years. The price is right for Tesla. But GameStop, I mean, there's no one that's saying the price is right. It's simply a massive speculative bubble, and it's fun while it lasts. But there's a famous Warren Buffett quote, right? When he talks about investing versus speculating, it says, when you get into this real excessive speculation, it's like Cinderella at the ball. She knows she's got to leave by midnight, or she's going to turn into a pumpkin or whatever it is. And he says, when it comes to speculation, you get to this point where everyone knows, it's the price is way too high, like it's not right. But they're all hoping to get out before the clock strikes midnight. But as Warren Buffett says, in the case of speculation, the clock has no hands. No one quite knows when that midnight is going to come. It's just all it comes all of a sudden. So that's the thing to be worried about. Don't get too crazy when it comes to speculation. Um, but at the same time, I think this this is a warning sign for much more than GameStop. It's a warning sign for many more markets than GameStop.
Okay, just before we go in there, I just want to highlight some of the reasons or some of the things that we have today that kind of created this speculation. So, one thing would be Reddit, among other forums that people all around the world can connect and read and together follow each other and buy and target a specific stock or a specific asset class. And basically, what they're doing is they're saying, "Hey, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be great. This is where the money is." And they all say, "Let's invest it." And everyone just gets in on that. And I just feel like, with technology and everyone connected, this might have not been as frequent many years ago. I mean, we still had perhaps on a stock exchange people talking up a stock, and perhaps that could have been a similar scenario. But I feel like now we can do it at a bigger scale with these social media platforms and other platforms. Another element is that now you can anybody on the retail side can invest in stocks or anything really very, very easily. We have platforms like Wealthsimple or Robinhood where you can buy a stock in seconds without calling anybody. And also, the purchasing the stock doesn't have any commission. So it's very frictionless. It's basically free aside from the bid and ask spread to buy a stock, which is those two elements combined can really cause this kind of thing, like what happened to GameStop, to happen to other things, which is super interesting to look for in the future in many ways. One way, will stuff like this keep happening? Two, how will regulators deal with it? And three, how will companies deal with it? Because I know that Robinhood had a little bit of problems, and other companies have also reacted to this specific situation in certain ways. And about speculation, yes, it's very exciting. A lot of the people on the retail side, they're looking to make money fast, uh, and 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 they don't care about the fundamentals. They care about buying it at a lower price and selling it at a higher price as quickly as possible, making cash as quickly as possible. And like you said, yeah, it could be exciting, it could be fun, and it could even be profitable for some people, but it can be extremely sad and extremely unprofitable for others. Extremely dangerous game. So another thing that Reddit and these Redditors have influenced is silver. Silver shot up in the last couple of days by about, I remember yesterday, for example, it was 7%, 8% higher than the beginning of the day. It jumped all the way up to $29 per an ounce in American dollars. And actually today it already dropped back about the same amount as yesterday's gains. It dropped today back to about $25. So here's another example of where this influenced something, this time precious metal and silver. So what do you think? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so this, you really hit the nail on the head when, you've got almost this new force in financial markets where all these speculators, small and big, can team up and create this enormous price rise. And the other function of it is if, they're trying to go after stocks that are heavily short, that people have sold short, betting on the price is going to go down, which creates this additional demand that they have to get out of that short position. Um, and yeah, I mean, this is something that's going to be affecting things going forward, no doubt about it. But what is interesting is now they picked up on silver and some of the silver mining stocks. That there's a handful of silver mining stocks. First Majestic is one prominent one that there was people short it, and it went up about 80% over the last few days. It's now come down a lot, and within all of that, uh, you know, whether by chance or by direction, by a few prominent posters on Reddit, they said, "Hey, we think a lot of people are short silver that through futures markets or whatever." Which I'm not even sure that's a true statement, but the view is that there's enough people short silver that if we all go after silver, its price could go from $30 to $50 to $100. And if you bought options on it that benefit from price rises or whatever, you can make a lot of money. And so this really started to go around Thursday, Friday, and over the weekend. I was reading all sorts of stories about silver coin shops being completely sold out. They're just people were willing to pay any price to get their hands on silver because they heard that this was going to be the next GameStop. That silver was going to shoot up a lot. And uh, it's really fascinating when that happens. I mean, we've seen that before. If you go back to 1980, there was famously people were lining up around the block to buy silver, and that was right at the peak. Right? These are the kinds of things, these crazy lineups, these crazy just I have to get it at any price is more likely a sign that you've hit some sort of peak, whether it's short term or long term, we'll see. but this mob has kind of gone after silver. But what we've seen with GameStop, it shot up to $500, but it's dropped to 100 today. It's sitting February 2nd, and some of that happened with back Thursday. It went to almost 500 and it dropped to almost 100 in an hour, 1 hour. So when this mob moves on to the next thing, um, you start to see these sharp price declines as well. So, um, the excitement, gold has been pretty boring. Silver got really, somewhat or fairly exciting these last few days, but um, it looks more like it's just a short-term demand spike rather than the start of silver going to 100 or $200. It's always possible. I mean, there's never a guarantee in financial markets, and I'm sure there was people that looked at GameStop and said, "Oh, there's no way it can go over $50." Right? It went to 400, 500. So there's no guarantees, but um, I would say, and when I see this kind of clamoring for silver at any price, it makes me very worried. It makes me, worried in the sense that, silver and silver mining stocks are probably, they've shot up like this, but once that speculation goes out, it's like pulling the rug out from under this, prices start to drop. Um, and this level of speculation, when it's come up in the past, and I'm not just talking GameStop, I'm not just talking silver or silver mining stocks, it's usually a pretty good sign that the bull market has peaked, the bubble has peaked, and we're now going to start on the downside. And usually when bubbles end or bull markets end, it's not a 10% drop or a 20% drop, it's 30%, 40%, 50%, across a whole range of things. We've seen kind of similar things at Bitcoin in recent months. Um, I'm looking at this. If someone came to me today and said, "What do you think of all this?" It's very exciting, but it's a warning sign. It's a big warning sign for a lot of financial assets, stock market assets, stocks, gold, silver, mining stocks. Um, once that energy of that all those people coming in starts to pull away, it can help get a bear market going. So it's definitely time to be cautious. And Raphael, ask me what I think the best asset is right now. What do I think the best asset is?
What do you think the best asset is?
So I would say, if someone came to me, I would say money in the bank. If you can put some money to the side now and just say, okay, maybe you've made some money in all of this, the market's up a lot, I would say put some money to the side. Not all of it, because things can keep going. And, if you're a long-term investor, you can kind of sit through some of this. But if you have some money to the side and we get, a decent bear market, you can take advantage of that. And that's something I hope, we'll see how it all unfolds, but that's something for the podcast going forward is if we can get that, what opportunities are coming up. But right now it's like, we've seen this before, um, and it's a warning sign. Things could get ugly pretty soon.
So just to specify, when you say money to put aside is cash, is actually to have your portfolio sitting in cash, a little bit of it, or not a little bit of it,
Yes,
a portion of it.
a portion of it, yeah. And if you think of our general podcast idea, gold investing, and the idea that we've got big picture, these tectonic forces at play that uh, because of a long bear market for gold, there's less production of gold, and gradually there's more investment demand for gold, and there's more money printing going on. This is an important asset to diversify your portfolio. Those all still hold, but because there's so much speculation, not only in other assets, but and I'm seeing this more and more, is people are adamant there's going to be hyperinflation. I'm not only am I buying gold or buying silver, I'm doing it with leverage. I'm buying leveraged exchange traded funds. I'm borrowing money to put into silver, gold, and so forth. And those when everyone is expecting that, um, then the price has already been bid up, and any sort of thing that goes wrong, any sort of speculative bubble that pops, all of a sudden it starts to force things down. So expectations, I think, are and speculation is too high in the short term, and that usually means you're going to get an air pocket below. And if you have that cash set aside, you can take advantage of those opportunities. So it's time to take some money off the table. As Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And it's time to maybe fold a few investments and put some money to the side. Is how if someone came to me and asked about this or what am I doing, that's what I'm doing right now.
So, just to summarize, gold has been very stable ish because we know gold is somewhat of a volatile asset, but it's been priced around the same price for some time now. I think about 5 months, and we've seen crazy volatility in stocks that we wouldn't expect any volatility. Also, on the side, I've been observing extreme gains from day to day on market indices. Like, for example, today and yesterday, above 1.5% for the S&P, for the Dow Jones, for the Nasdaq. And it feels like people are trying to grab their last big bite of a great meal. And it's a huge bite. You're saying that traditionally silver is a sign when people are trying to grab silver is a sign to an end, to a big growth stage. And if you were to give a suggestion to investors, is A, don't get invested right now, and B, maybe it's time to pull some money out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. Like to finish off your analogy, there's a there's a lot of people taking a huge bite out of their meal, and they may have bitten off more than they can chew, and we might have a bit of a mess on our hands shortly.
Anything else you want to add to the podcast today?
Maybe I think that's just the right thing to finish off on. I think that's
Okay.
pretty good.
Awesome. Sounds good. So hopefully we can do another podcast soon, talk about what's been going on. Hopefully the markets will keep us as excited as it has over the past month. Thank you very much, Steve.
See ya.